We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
Well, that's how it started, but this is how it's going.
We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And frankly, look, the people there are cheering for losing in the Republican Party.
Another election, another bust for the GOP. Even the Wall Street Journal is wondering if Republicans are tired of losing.
Here now at the desk with reaction, Fox News contributor Liz Peek and journalist Batya Ungar-Sargon. Great to see you, ladies. Liz, what do you make of, well, just go. I'll shut up.
All right, so I don't think we can put this all on Ronna McDaniel. That would be too easy. You fire Ronna McDaniel, we start winning again. I don't think so. Look, I think abortion, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, was a huge problem for the GOP. We have got to find a way forward. I'm hoping that in the next year we find that way. If I were a Republican governor, I would say, let's have a referendum. Let's put this to the voters. We are the party of freedom of expression, of democracy, right, writ large. That's who Republicans are. For example, I think Ron DeSantis made a huge mistake going with a 6-week ban. Very few people really think that's appropriate. More important, what he should have done is say to the Florida voters, you tell me what we should be doing on abortion. Let us have a referendum here. You know what? I'm not tired of winning. I like winning, and I want to win in 2024. I think it's unbelievably essential for our country that we get rid of Democrats in the White House. We're not going to do it if every single Democrat is out there hammering Republican candidates on abortion.
So, Batya, I would say the Democrats don't have better candidates than Republicans. They do have more money. But on the issue of abortion, per Liz's point, Republicans don't fight. They take the blows, they take the commercials, they take the you're an extremist language. They never fight back and go, you know what, you on the left are an extremist. If you believe in late-term partial birth abortion, you're the crazy one. If you don't fight back on that issue, all of a sudden, it's like a rate's 3 or 4 in the polling. All of a sudden, abortion becomes the #1 issue and Republicans lose women because they don't fight.
So first of all of the viewers should pull out their phones, go to Twitter, and find Dagan's tweet about Vivek Ramaswamy from last night. It was perfect, and
I say it was
so
like a little kid with a water pistol full of deer urine, just in everybody's faces. And I loved it.
Totally
but go ahead.
Perfect. There's one person who's winning very, very solidly, and that's Donald Trump. There was a poll that came out from New York Times recently this week that he is leading Biden in almost 5 out of 6 battleground states, okay? Right. So there is a Republican who is doing extremely well, who is winning and winning and winning. And that is the problem with the Republican Party. There is a huge divide between the voter base and the donor base. Trump has the heart of the voter base. What they want is an economy that works for the working class. And unfortunately, the donor base, which is funding all of these other candidates and all of the down ballot candidates, all they want are tax cuts. And those are irreconcilable. And I'll just put one other thing out there. Trump came out with a proposal a few months ago, 10% tariff on every foreign import immediately. It is a genius idea, the kind of thing that the foreign policy experts and the economists and the donors absolutely hate. That means a lot to voters because it is going to help their bottom line. That is exactly the kind of thing that is going to revitalize manufacturing in America. It's a great idea.
I'm sitting over here going, yeah, all the mega million billionaire donors love Glenn Youngkin. Perfidy. It's like Glenn Youngkin can beat Trump. He can beat everybody. He's so smart. No, look what happened in Virginia.
Okay, can I just actually intervene here and say that Glenn Youngkin actually did an amazing thing in 2021 by winning the governorship. Dagan, it's true. And that was kind of, but actually, Trump should use that win by Youngkin to push back the narrative that it's all Trump's fault, right? I mean, after 2020, it was not Trump that was our big problem. It was abortion. That happened after Glenn Youngkin was elected. And we could go through county by county in Virginia. He actually did not do as badly as all the Democrats are yelling about right now. He did not achieve, admittedly, what he wanted to. But
Liz,
this is a bigger thing.
I would join you if Republicans actually fought on that issue and lost. I could go with you and say that's a political problem. But when they don't fight and they lose,
by the way,
I can't
I
go
want to
there.
agree with you 100% on this. I think that we are being drowned out. Democrats are the extremists on abortion, and they have turned that upside down, and it is so offensive. In fact, I'm writing about that for tomorrow. They're lying about where Republicans stand, and they're lying about where they stand. And these young voters, and in particular young women voters who are going out, they don't bother to do their homework. They don't know what Democrats stand for.
So the consultants come in and said abortion is the number 5 issue, but it's the economy and inflation and the border that are the 1, 2, and 3 issues. So Republicans run on those issues, and Democrats run on abortion and make it from the 5th issue to the number 1 issue, and Republicans lose. Yeah. So they should be smart enough to go, that's what Democrats are going to do. I have to fight on this, or I lose like 3/4 of the women in America.
Yeah.
I know you disagree with me on this,
I
Batya,
disagree with you on this because I think that the small government independent spirit of the American people is what we're seeing when it comes to abortion. They don't believe in late-term abortions. They believe in their hearts that it is immoral after 15 weeks, but they really don't want to see the government banning it. There's that independent spirit of the American people.
You mentioned the word, but that's all the Democrats have done. They did it in Virginia. Ban, 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 ban. And all the dudes in the Republican Party just sat back and went, well, I don't know what to say.
By the way, the media did that too.
Democrats have no ban until birth.
They use the same language.
Batya, Liz, thank you.